True Appalachian Ghost Trail horror. Real missing hikers and haunting lights. There are trails deep within the Appalachian Mountains that don't appear on most maps. Trails carved by footsteps long gone, fading into mist and silence. Locals call them the ghost trails, narrow paths where people have walked and never returned, where strange lights move between the trees at night, and where the air feels heavier with every breath. They say the mountains remember every soul that entered them. Tonight, we're going between those trees, to the place where light and life vanish together. The ridge that watches back. The Appalachian Mountains stretch for nearly 2,000 miles, their spine cutting through the misty heart of America. From northern Georgia to Maine, they breathe an ancient silence older than memory itself. In the folds of that silence, stories linger, not of folklore alone, but of people who entered the woods and never came back out. Locals along the North Carolina-Tennessee border know one such place as Hollow's Bend Trail, a path barely remembered even by rangers. It winds behind an old coal road near Bryson City, crossing an abandoned section of the Great Smoky Foothills. On paper, it doesn't exist, but in the years between 1989 and 2002, at least 5 hikers and 2 hunters vanished somewhere along it. No bodies, no clues, only whispers about strange sounds echoing between the trees, lights that seemed to follow from above, and an unnatural chill that clung to the skin even in summer. The first disappearance came in October 1989. A local high school teacher named William Kramer was known for his weekend hikes. He told his sister he wanted to cut across the old ridge road and explore where the forest turns black at dusk. He left with a small backpack and camera. 2 days later, his car was found near an unmarked trailhead. Inside the glove compartment, police found a note written hastily on the back of a receipt. "If I don't make it back, tell them the lights weren't fireflies." The search lasted a week. No tracks, no scent, no remains. The only clue was a discarded flashlight found a mile from his last known location. The bulb had shattered inward, as if something had pressed against it from inside. A year later, a pair of campers, Michael and Dana Powell, reported hearing footsteps around their tent near the same ridge. The steps circled them all night, stopping whenever they called out. When dawn came, they found faint prints in the mud, barefoot, small, and leading in a perfect circle. They packed up before sunrise and swore never to camp in those woods again. By 1992, Hollow's Bend was quietly removed from local trail maps. The Park Service blamed erosion, safety hazards, and unmaintained terrain. But the locals knew better. Hunters in Bryson City claimed to see columns of light moving silently through the trees on foggy nights. One described it as a lantern with no hand holding it. Another swore he saw 3 glowing orbs following the tree line, then vanishing at the sound of a shotgun blast. The real turning point came in May 1996. A college student named Erin McKay, 22, was hiking the Appalachian segment near Clingman's Dome. She was last seen by a fellow hiker at the junction of a faded side trail marked by an old wooden post, the rumored entrance to Hollow's Bend. When she didn't return, rescue teams scoured the area for a week. Dogs picked up her scent for half a mile, then it ended abruptly, as if she had stepped off the earth. 3 days into the search, rescuers reported something strange. Their radios crackled with faint voices, whispers calling names that weren't part of the team. One ranger, Daniel Frost, said over the open line, "Someone's out here saying her name." The transmission ended mid-sentence. That night, searchers found a single item, Erin's camera, half buried in leaves beside a mossy rock. The film inside was developed later. The last frame showed a blurred image of trees, but between them, faintly visible, were 3 vertical streaks of light, each the height of a person, motionless yet glowing in the fog. The FBI briefly investigated, but with no evidence of foul play, the case went cold. To this day, Erin's remains were never found. By 1998, Hollow's Bend had become a forbidden legend among hikers. Even mentioning it drew uneasy glances from locals. But curiosity, as always, has a cruel way of calling the living back to haunted places. In October 2001, a trio of amateur explorers, Ryan Dalton, Alex Reed, and Kayla Burns, drove from Asheville to film a ghost trail documentary. They weren't professionals, just 3 friends with cameras, flashlights, and too much confidence. The last footage they recorded is now archived by local authorities, labeled Recovered Tape, Hollows Bend Ridge. The tape begins normally, daytime hiking, laughter, Ryan narrating into a camcorder. The forest looks unremarkable. But around dusk, the tone shifts. The camera trembles as they walk through a hollow filled with mist. A faint hum fills the audio, not mechanical but deep, rhythmic, like breathing. Then, at 36 minutes, Kayla says faintly, "Do you see that?" The camera pans. Between the trees stands a shape of light. Not glowing brightly, but pulsing, slow, alive, almost human-sized. It moves sideways, not walking but gliding. Ryan mutters that it must be a reflection, yet no light source is visible. The lens shakes violently, and the footage cuts off mid-frame. Authorities found their abandoned campsite 3 days later. 2 sleeping bags unzipped, 1 torn open. Ryan's camera was propped against a tree, battery drained. No sign of Ryan, Alex, or Kayla. The official report listed them as missing persons, last seen October 14, 2001. Unofficially, locals said the ridge took them. Then, in July 2002, a group of church volunteers cleaning an old cemetery 15 miles from the site discovered something. Behind a row of crumbling gravestones, beneath a collapsed oak, they found a weathered hiking boot. Inside it, preserved by time and soil, was a human foot. DNA later confirmed it belonged to Alex Reed, one of the missing explorers. The rest of his remains were never recovered. No one could explain how a boot from Hollows Bend ended up miles away in untouched terrain. The ridge had once again swallowed the truth whole. Since then, Hollows Bend has been closed to all entry, though people still sneak in. There are modern reports, scattered through online forums, of hikers seeing phantom lights moving along the tree line near Bryson City. A truck driver in 2015 described what he saw as 3 pillars of fire walking through fog, in perfect silence. Another hiker in 2019 captured faint lights flickering behind him in multiple photos. Rangers dismiss them as camera glare. Locals do not. Those who've gone near say the same thing. The forest feels wrong. The sound of footsteps echo from no one. Birds go silent when you enter the trail. Even the wind seems to hesitate between the trees. Some say the lights are trapped souls of those who vanished, their last flickers of energy drifting through time. Others think it's something older, something that feeds on curiosity and fear. Scientists have tried to explain it as swamp gas, static discharge, even piezoelectric glows from quartz rock formations under pressure. But the mountains are full of quartz, and not every ridge makes people disappear. In 2021, a local podcast revisited the case. They interviewed Daniel Frost, the retired ranger who searched for Erin McKay decades earlier. His voice trembled through the recording. "We never found her," he said, "but sometimes when I drive past the ridge at night, I see lights moving where no road should be. I don't stop anymore. I just keep driving." No one has officially set foot on Hollows Bend Trail since 2005. But if you go deep enough into the Smokies, past the marked routes, you might find it. A narrow path half swallowed by roots, leading into mist. Locals say if you hear footsteps that aren't yours, don't turn around. And if you see a light between the trees, no matter how close it seems, don't follow it. Because that's how the mountain remembers you. And the mountains, they never forget. The Last Trail Walker. The story of Hollows Bend should have ended in 2002. The ridge was fenced, the trail maps withdrawn, and park rangers quietly warned travelers to stay on the marked routes. But the mountains don't let stories die easily. By the spring of 2006, curiosity had again pulled someone between those trees, someone who would come closer than anyone before to explaining what lives there. His name was Thomas Ellery, 35, a veteran forest surveyor from Kentucky. He'd spent nearly a decade charting erosion lines across the Smoky foothills and knew those woods like veins under his skin. When he heard local crews talk about the forbidden ridge where compasses spin, he shrugged it off as superstition. He'd mapped hurricane-stripped forests and coal-collapsed sinkholes. A ghost trail didn't scare him. Ellery arrived in Bryson City on May 4, 2006, carrying a GPS unit, barometer, and a logbook. He told a ranger he wanted to record vegetation growth near an old landslide path east of Clingman's Dome. He didn't say Hollow's Bend by name, but the ranger later admitted the coordinates matched it exactly. That evening, Ellery radioed base once, static-filled, barely audible. He said he'd reached the ridge and would camp overnight to finish measurements at dawn. It was the last time anyone heard his voice. When he failed to check in, 2 park officers hiked to his marked site. His tent was upright, gear intact, coffee still warm. But his GPS sat uselessly on a rock, the battery drained though it was new. The logbook stopped mid-sentence. Low fog settled fast. Hearing, the word ended abruptly, followed by a pen line trailing off the page. Another disappearance, another echo. The search that followed was small, discreet, and short. Officials cited terrain hazards, heavy rain, limited visibility. After 7 days, they called it off. Ellery was declared missing, presumed dead. But 6 months later, in November, a hunter in the neighboring county of Graham found something impossible. Half buried under wet leaves lay a small digital recorder, branded with Ellery's initials. It was water-damaged but recoverable. The file inside ran 22 minutes long. Investigators released only portions, but a transcript was later leaked through local journalists. What it captured remains one of Appalachia's strangest audio documents. The recording began with wind, boots crunching gravel, then Ellery's steady breathing. He narrates for several minutes, routine survey notes, barometric readings. Then, faintly, a metallic clicking echoes behind him. He pauses. "Thought I heard." Static interrupts. After a minute he whispers, "There's light through the trees." Not lightning. Moving slow. The sound grows louder, low hum, rhythmic, almost mechanical yet organic, as if the forest itself were exhaling. His breath quickens. There's 3 of them. Columns of white light. Same spacing every few feet. Footsteps quicken, then stop. He whispers again, trembling, "They're coming uphill." No footsteps. Just sliding. The recording distorts, high-frequency interference shrieking through the speaker. The last clear words Ellery speaks are, "It's right in front of me," followed by a deep, resonant pulse that silences everything. Then nothing. No scream, no movement. Only wind and the rustle of leaves for another minute before the tape clicks off. When the file was authenticated, authorities couldn't identify any known source for the sound. Some claimed it matched the resonance of subfrequency seismic waves. Others thought it was feedback from the recorder's mic. Yet audio engineers noted an odd pattern in the static, 3 repeating intervals, perfectly timed, resembling a heartbeat. By the following year, Ellery's case was filed away with the rest. Another name carved into the long ledger of the missing. But that ledger wasn't closed. In 2010, a regional journalist named Marla Keene began producing a podcast called Lost in the Ridge, chronicling unsolved disappearances in Appalachia. Hollow's Bend became her obsession. She interviewed relatives, former searchers, and folklore historians who warned her that the mountain's name, Hollow's Bend, originated from an older Cherokee phrase meaning, "the place where spirits fold." She spent months piecing timelines together until she noticed a pattern. Every major incident occurred within 11 years of the previous one, almost like a cycle. The 1989 teacher, the 2000s filmmakers, Ellery in 2006, they aligned with lunar phase data tied to geomagnetic peaks along that ridge. Keene proposed that underground quartz pressure created electromagnetic surges strong enough to affect human perception, inducing light illusions and spatial disorientation. It was a scientific theory, but it didn't explain the voices on radios or the missing bodies. Determined to gather proof, she and 2 sound technicians hiked toward the restricted area in October 2011, under permit to record environmental audio for her documentary. They left at dawn, followed the old ridge road, and entered what remained of Hollow's Bend by late afternoon. Only one of them came back. His name was Evan Rowe, 27, a freelance field engineer from Knoxville. Authorities found him wandering the service road at dawn the next day, barefoot, coat torn, face pale with shock. He was hospitalized for dehydration and exposure, unable to speak for 2 days. When he finally could, his voice came in fragments, haunted and broken. "They were right behind me," he whispered. Marla said the lights were closer. Then she stopped talking. He described hearing a hum rising through the soil, vibrating in his teeth, while pale beams drifted across the forest like water running upward. He said when he turned around, the trees were glowing, roots trembling, and Marla was simply gone. No scream, no shadow, just air where she'd stood. Rescuers searched the ridge for 2 weeks. Nothing was found except her recorder and one camera lens fused by heat. The official report called it a tragic accident due to terrain collapse. Locals called it the mountain's claim. Evan Rowe later moved to Oregon, living quietly under therapy, but in 2018 he spoke publicly for the first time. During a late-night radio interview he said, voice trembling, "They weren't lights. They were reflections of something moving inside the trees. Like the trees had eyes." The interviewer asked what he meant, but he refused to elaborate. Months later he disappeared from his apartment without notice. His car remained parked outside. The landlord found his door locked from the inside. On the table lay a note in shaky handwriting, "I hear them again between the walls." That was the last confirmed trace of anyone connected directly to Hollow's Bend. In 2022, satellite imagery showed faint clearings along the ridge, 3 narrow scars aligned perfectly, each roughly human-sized and glowing faintly under infrared. Forestry analysts blamed natural mineral reflection. Those who know the legend called it the lantern pattern. Local residents still report strange occurrences: electronics flickering, animals refusing to enter certain woods, unexplainable whispers on CB radios. Truckers along Route 74 say they sometimes see moving lights weaving through the tree-line, following their rigs for miles before fading into fog. Perhaps the most chilling account came only a year ago from a retired ranger who once led search parties in the Smokies. He refused to give his name, but his statement was recorded for a regional oral history project. "There's a place on that ridge," he said, "where the trees grow too close, and no echo comes back when you call out. We marked it off limits decades ago. But every few years, someone finds their way in. You can tell when it happens, because for a week or so afterward, we see lights drifting over the valley at night, like the mountains breathing out the ones it swallowed." He paused before adding softly, "You never want to see your own reflection between those trees. Because if you do, it means you're already part of the ridge." His words closed the official archive on Hollow's Bend. Even now, the trail remains sealed by rusted wire and warning signs faded to ghosts of letters. But nature doesn't care for fences. Trees fall. Roots crawl. New paths form. Somewhere beyond those barriers lies the same narrow cut of ground where William Kramer walked in 1989, where Aaron McKay followed the lights in 1996, where Ellery whispered into his recorder, and where Marla Keene vanished into a pulse of white silence. And maybe, on some cold night, the fog still carries their voices, soft, overlapping, repeating names of those who never returned. People drive through Bryson City today and stop at diners that serve pancakes and coffee, unaware that just beyond the horizon the earth remembers everything. Some locals swear they can hear faint humming under the asphalt when the air is still. Others say they've seen flashes in the mountains at the edge of town, as if someone is signaling from far away. The Park Service denies it all. They say the ground is unstable, that the fences protect hikers from sinkholes, that the disappearances are coincidence. But rangers still avoid patrol there after dark. And sometimes, when thunderstorms roll across the Smokies, lightning forks exactly 3 times over the ridge, as if matching that old, steady rhythm recorded by Thomas Ellery, the heartbeat of the mountain itself. What truly lives between the trees may never be known. Perhaps it's an energy trapped in the quartz, replaying echoes of the lost. Perhaps it's older, a consciousness buried deep beneath the Appalachian stone, feeding on the curious who step too far from the path. Whatever it is, the pattern continues. 11 years pass, the fog returns, and another name is added to the silence. If you stand on the overlook near Bryson Gap tonight, you might see the faintest shimmer rising from the tree-line, a soft white glow swaying gently like lanterns in the wind. You might tell yourself it's headlights from the valley, or campers, or trick of the eyes. Just don't blink too long, because sometimes the light blinks back. If you felt the chill of Hollows Bend tonight, subscribe and stay close, because next time, we'll follow the lights even deeper into America's most haunted wilderness.